Hello, it is 2024 and I am back to GradGirlRambles. It is 2024 and it is the beginning of the year, obviously, and I wanted to share some things that I considered when I was ranking my APPIC sites. So these are just the things that I thought about when I was ranking. If you've been watching the channel, you know that I participated in both phase 1 and phase 2 of the APPIC process, but my ranking process was kind of the same for both. I will start by saying that I think it will differ for everybody what they prioritize over others. But for me, I was really hoping to find an internship where I would get kind of like a breadth of training, but also new experiences that I didn't have yet, where I would still get like heavy supervision. Ideally, at this point, you probably know where you have most of your interviews or all of them. And as you were kind of researching internship sites, you were probably making like a top 5 or a top whatever. But I would say go ahead and rank all of your sites based on just the materials, the brochures, all of that. Like which ones on paper do you like the most and rank them that way. That way you're not starting from scratch when it comes to the actual ranking. And then as you do your interviews, you can move them up and down as needed. So the way that I did that was in my spreadsheet, I had a list. I had a tab with all of the sites that I applied to. I had a tab with all of the ones that I had interviews for. And then if I had already ranked the ones I applied to, I just kind of reconfigured the numbers based on how many interviews I had. And then those rankings, I really considered how many new experiences I could get, how much time I would have devoted to experiences I'm already kind of comfortable with and really just want to grow in. So for me, assessment was a huge one that I didn't feel I needed a whole lot of experience with, but I wanted to prioritize sites that at least had some assessment experiences because it's something that as a school psychology student, we are very well versed in assessment and learning new assessments, but I wanted to be able to do assessment in like a different context and just have more experience with it. That's just one example of a training experience that I really wanted to focus on. For things that I wasn't as familiar with, I found myself applying to programs and tracks where kind of like the general focus was new to me. So in phase 1, I focused a lot on integrated behavioral health, integrated primary care, those types of sites. And then in phase 2, I actually focused more on pediatric psychology. But it was very different between the two phases because in the first one, I thought that IBH would be more appropriate or like applicable for me. But now being in my internship in pediatric psychology, I found that this is something that I really enjoy. And so, it all works out. Something you want to think about when you're ranking is how that internship is going to contribute and get you on the right path for your training goals, or not your training goals, but your career goals. So in your interviews, they will be asking you like, how will our site help you in your future career, in your professional development? That's something you need to have an answer for, but it's also something you want to think about. Like after you have the interview, do you still feel the same way about that site after actually meeting with the people, talking with them? Does it feel the same way as the vibe you got from looking at the brochure? If not, maybe you got an even better idea of what to expect and it's moving up on your ranking list, or maybe you feel like the brochure was misleading and you need to move it down a little bit. So just think about how it can move you further in the career that you want. I think a lot of people have different opinions on this, and having just gone through the experience, I personally don't feel that you need to start specializing in internship unless your goal is to become like a neuropsychologist. In that case, I think neuropsych internships are probably the way you need to go for like board certification and stuff like that. But otherwise, you have plenty of opportunities to specialize outside of internship. There's postdoc opportunities, different employment opportunities to kind of broaden your scope of practice. So my advisor suggested finding breadth in internship and not focusing in on some kind of specialization. So if a site specializes too much, maybe consider whether or not that's something you're really interested in doing versus getting more broad experience when you're still being heavily supervised. The other thing is supervision. I ask very specific questions about supervision, like what does your supervision look like? Can you tell me a little bit about the approach that you use for supervision? How long are interns supervised directly with the supervisor before they're expected to be independent? Those kinds of things were really important in my rankings because I've been in experiences where I've just been thrown into clinical training experiences and it felt less like training and more like a let's just see how it works. For me, that's not helpful. And so being able to know what supervision style works for you and using that in your rankings is going to be really important too, because you don't want a whole year of feeling like you're on your own and then you graduate, have your doctorate, and then you still feel like you're not prepared. Something else that I considered was location. So in phase one, I was very focused on my geographic location. I applied to almost all sites on the East Coast because that's where I'm from, and I was trying to get back there from Michigan. I think even though I had a lot of really great interviews in phase one, those sites on the East Coast are very competitive, and I knew that. And I think it maybe didn't work in my favor that I had such a narrow focus on the geographic region. So in phase two, I expanded that a little bit, and I also have the ability to do that because I am not married, I do not have children. I can still be a little bit transient in my moving, but if you have a family and you are trying to, not be long distance for a year, that's something you should consider in your rankings. And if you do end up going somewhere not close to home for internship, it is only for a year. So if it's something that you're worried about, it's for a year, as long as it's like in a place that you think you would be okay. There are other opportunities for postdoc because not as many people are applying for postdoc, which I am realizing now as I go through that process, it is less stressful. I would also make sure you ask current interns about their experience. Most places give you an opportunity to speak with interns, and because interns generally don't have much say in who or how applicants are ranked, it's very open and they're usually very honest about their experiences. So I would ask like those questions that you're uncomfortable asking like the training director or the supervisors about. Ask them those hard questions about the culture or the climate of the institution or wherever you're applying. Some internships have like you have your vacation time and then you have like PD time where you could take days for like your dissertation defense or going to a conference that maybe isn't related to your internship. So just think about some of those kind of like other benefits. Obviously the pay is really important. So I also ranked based on how much I was going to be paid and how that compared to the cost of living wherever it was. And at the end of the day, you need to rank based on what you want and not what you think the site thinks of you. So don't rank based on how you think your interview went. I kept hearing this when I was applying. They were like, don't try to read their minds. Only rank based on the information you have and what's important to you. So your rank list should look like your top one should be like, this is where I want to be 100%. And then as you go down, it's like, okay, if this place was no longer an option, this is the next place I want to be, and so forth. So blah, blah, blah. The only thing I will also say is that if you feel that there is a site that just does not, if something seems really off and you can't put your finger on it, you don't have to rank every place you interview for. So for me, there was one site I interviewed with in phase one that the interview was very kind of like haphazardly put together. The people I met were fine, but I don't think we would like get along well. It wasn't a big team, so it's not like there would be other people. It would kind of just be like me and these 1 or 2 people. I wasn't really into the training experiences. I didn't feel it would help me grow. I kind of felt like it would just kind of be like this plateau. And then I felt like the questions I was asking were not hard, but they had a really difficult time answering some of them. And honestly, at the end of the interview, I kind of thought, I think I might be miserable here. And at the end of the day, I did not rank that site. And that was in phase 1. I did not match in phase 1, but that site also had a position available in phase 2, which could have meant if I did rank it, I could have ended up there, which is why it's important that if you genuinely do not like a site and do not think that it can add anything for you, don't rank it, because you can literally end up anywhere. And the whole point of the match is that it is binding. Once you match, you gotta go. And I was really glad that I didn't. As much as I hated not matching, I was glad I didn't match there. And so then I also did not apply to it in phase 2. So keep that in mind. Like, really think about, my advisor asked me the question, would you rather not match than match to this site? And if the answer is yes, don't rank it. Because that was a big wake up call to me, to be like, yeah, I'd rather just like not match than be there. I feel like that's a very big thing to say. And it was true for me. And I'm glad I didn't do it, because I could have ended up there this year. And I really like where I ended up in the phase 2 process. So it all worked out. But people are going to tell you, you just need an internship, which is true. But you also don't want to be miserable because it is binding. So if something is very, very off, or something makes you extremely uncomfortable and there's like nothing that can be done to make you feel comfortable going to that place, do not rank it. Don't. But anyway, those are some of the things I considered. I think that this whole process is a bunch of hoopla and it's gonna be okay. If you're going through this process, just remember that it'll be over soon. You're gonna have an internship, you know, whether it is in phase 1, phase 2, in the post-match vacancy, or for the small handful of people who apply again the next time, like, you will get an internship. But I know from experience how stressful it can be. So take care of yourself. Make sure once you have your last interview, or once you submit your rankings, like, do something special for yourself. Just like go do something. Just celebrate the little wins in between. It's about the journey, even though the outcome is important too. But that's all. I'm just gonna leave it there and check in with you guys later. Bye.